Like this. Good pass, Brad. Michael Wolf. What do you think?
I think I know it's a miss.
Miss?
I think so.
I think it looks good. Yeah.
Boom.
Come on.
Big time shot.
Have some confidence.
This is the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing. Now, here's your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum, with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.
Welcome back to the Sean Miller Podcast. As always, we'd like to thank our partners at Deer Park Roofing for helping make this possible. Paul Fritchner alongside Adam Baum. And on today's show, we're going to go back to the film room. It'll be with the scout team, otherwise known as the walk-ons. Sean Miller sitting down with Ian Sabrin, Brad Colbert, and Michael Wolf to talk about what they do for this team, what their roles are on this team, and also what they bring in practice and how important they are to the success of Xavier. Adam, this is a very interesting episode, and I think it shines a light on something that maybe not a lot of fans know or appreciate about what it takes to win at this level.
Yeah, this was an episode that was actually Sean's idea, and I think it's really cool because, to your point, you know, a lot of times you don't know about the walk-ons unless Xavier is up really big or they're down really big, and they get to go in at the very end of a game. And that's sort of your understanding of their role. Well, this is an entire episode dedicated to simply how important they are to being a productive team, to being a productive program, everything that goes into being a successful basketball team. These guys have a role in it. And similar to that Des Claude episode that we did earlier, if you're listening to it, I think you'll find it interesting. But there is a film component to this one, so you definitely want to head over to YouTube and dial this one up.
Absolutely. Subscribe to our YouTube page, the Sean Miller Podcast. You can also follow us on social media at Sean Miller Pod. Sean has been great with his ideas and what he has brought to the table with this and his dedication to this podcast, and we do our best to make it easy on him on the back end. That what we do is we set everything up for him. He comes in, we cut the film, we do everything that he needs to do to have a successful show, to be able to come into the show, sit down, record, and leave. And I think this has been a pretty good way to show what he's bringing to the table from a media perspective as well as his coaching.
Yeah, I mean, Sean's primary role is always going to be head coach of the Xavier Musketeers. And to this point, and to his credit, you know, nothing that we've done with him has ever taken away from that. I think if we ever get in a situation where he feels like, man, this podcast is really taking it out of me, which we set it up in a way so that's not the case. But I think he'd be the first one to step in and say, you know what, I need to focus on preparing for this game, preparing for this week. And I think that's why right now we've been really successful putting out a new one of these every week. But at some point, that may happen, and people need to be prepared for the possibility that maybe there's an episode where it's just me and Paul and a guest, and Sean's off doing his thing. But, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we've been very strategic in how we set this up to take as little time as possible away from Sean and his coaching duties, and he's been all for it.
But we'd like to thank each and every one of you, as we do on every show, for watching, subscribing, listening, sharing, rating, reviewing, all of that good stuff. It's been great so far, and we're excited to keep continuing this into the future. But for now, here is Sean Miller alongside the scout team for the Xavier Musketeers.
Well, fellas, welcome to the Sean Miller Podcast. It's great to have you as you're probably the third group or fourth group that we've had as guests. Matter of fact, you're the first group. We've had, I think, 3 individual guests, and now you become the fourth. So it's my honor to have you here on this podcast. I know it's your honor to be on the podcast. And let's start off with a couple things. One, Bob Nungy, who's a part of our team, and unfortunately had a torn ACL here recently, so he's out for the season. But he's also the first person to say no to an invite on the Sean Miller Podcast. So I want to make sure that I gave a shout out to Bob for saying no. We wanted him on. Not sure what it was about, but we'll confront him tomorrow, all right? But we got you 3 guys here, and I just want to set the stage on why we wanted you to be a part of the podcast, and that is there's a lot that goes into creating a college basketball program, to building a team, but also building something that's bigger than a team, where you have a culture, an identity, And from one season to the next, you have the ability to be successful. And one of my beliefs is you have to have a group of, you're called walk-ons, right? As you know, I don't really like to refer to you as walk-ons because I think some people don't really understand the meaning of it. I try to talk to you about you guys more in terms of you're on our scout team, right? Because without you, we could not be successful. And there's a group of managers we have, obviously a coaching staff that gets paid to do this. We have a group of players, some who have different roles. But you guys a lot of times don't have the opportunity to play in the game, but you give as much effort and you give as much, I don't really know how to say it, substance to our practice environment than sometimes anybody else. I want you to know that. I say that to you quietly. We talk, sometimes away from the court, but it's your everyday effort that I believe sometimes differentiates us from other programs. But as we build this program and keep building it, you're a real part of it. I just want you to know I respect and appreciate you guys a great deal. Okay?
Thank you, Coach.
So would you mind introducing yourself to the camera so everybody knows first and last name, where you're from, what year you are in school, major, anything else you'd like to add, and then we'll take it from there. Michael, I'll start with you.
Well, my name is Michael Wolf. I'm a redshirt sophomore, business major, and currently sitting here at the Sean Miller podcast, I guess. That's what I got.
Hometown, Michael Wolf.
Denver, Colorado. From Greenwood Village, about 20 minutes outside of the city of downtown.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. I'm Ian Sabrin. I'm from about 30 minutes north in Hamilton, Ohio. I'm a finance major, and I'm a sophomore.
Hey, everyone. I'm Brad Colbert. I'm a senior finance major from Loveland, Ohio, and this is my second year at Xavier after I spent my first 2 at University of Louisville.
For Coach Mack.
Yes.
So
for
Coach Mack would have been the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Michael, I think one thing that I'd love for you to talk about is, your family tree, the history of your family, and its ties to Xavier University.
Yeah, I've got 5 uncles, and one of them went here, who also did broadcasting here for the team for 17 years, Steve Wolf, my godfather.
Yep.
I also have about, I think it's 6 cousins right now that have gone to Xavier, not including myself. I've got a total of 20 cousins and 7 second cousins that are all within the Cincinnati area, all very closely related to Cincinnati and Xavier University. Everyone comes out to the games a bunch. But my family has been very, very integrated with this university, starting with Steve and then trickling down the cousins. And I'm the last person in the family to be here, and I'll be the last Wolf as of right now because Stevie will be leaving at the end of this year.
Right. And Stevie's on the volleyball team.
She is, yeah.
Yeah. Ian?
Yeah, well, I have a lot of family who's come to Xavier too. My granddad was the first. He came here probably about 60 years ago, lived in Brockman, where I lived last year.
Wow.
And then my parents met in Brockman.
Wow.
And then my aunt played soccer here. My other aunt went here. My uncle went here. And then my older sister went here. And I was like deciding between whether I wanted to play D3 lower level basketball or whether I wanted to go for it and try and become like either a manager or a player. And I came here last summer, was a manager to start, got a few reps in practice, got to play with a few of the coaches in the manager runs, and one day after practice, I got the news that I was moving up onto the team, and I was very excited. Dream come true.
So, Ian, about that, I don't know in the time that I've been a coach that I've ever seen somebody go from a manager to a walk-on.
Yeah.
Because there's a big difference.
Yeah,
Managers, they're amazing and they do a lot of things, but the actual physicality and just everything that we ask of you guys on a daily basis, which we'll get to, I think you're the first, and it's really difficult to do. This summer when we were shorthanded, losing both Zach and Jerome like we did, I mean, you were in every practice that we went as it led to the Bahamas, you know. And again, that's the understated part of it. If you weren't able to practice at that level, we would have never been able to have the value that we got out of that trip, you know. And so, yeah, it's almost like I forgot at one point you were the manager.
I know, it was crazy. A few people were talking about, like D-Mill told me this summer, he was like, a year ago you were a manager and now you're our backup 4-man. I was like, yeah, things have changed fast. It was cool though. I loved getting to get the reps in practice and being able to play on the 5-on-5, and it was awesome this summer.
Brad?
So I actually have no connection to Xavier in my family. My mom went to Ohio State, and her side of the family, they pretty much all went to Ohio State. And my dad went to OU. So I grew up a huge Buckeye fan.
Yeah.
Always, my favorite player growing up was Aaron Kraft and Jared Sellinger and all that. And so then I read a book in about middle school it was called Don't Put Me In, Coach. It was by Mark Titus, and he was a walk-on at Ohio State. And once I found out like what he did every day, I knew that I wanted to be a walk-on at a school like Ohio State or a big-time school. And so coming out of high school, I was looking to either walk on or play D3, and I ended up choosing Louisville because of Chris Mack and just the city of Louisville and the school. And in my sophomore year, Chris Mack left the program, so I was really scared because I didn't know what else I could do. I didn't know where I would go or where I would end up. And so then I remember I texted Chris Mack and I asked him, I said, I'm thinking about going to Xavier. I wanted to go closer to home. And I was wondering if I texted him. I was wondering if you could text Sean Miller for me. I know that he's starting a new program, getting new people there, and probably gonna need some walk-ons. So he was like, all right, give me a second. And then he texted me back about 15, 20 minutes later, and he was like, it's your spot if you want it. He's like, sent me Dante's number, and he's like, set up everything to come for a visit and everything. You should be good. So I'm forever grateful for Chris Mack for doing that for me and helping me get here.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting to follow each of your stories. And look, we haven't talked about this part, but I think it's worth bringing up. I think each of you guys, if you want to, when your time ends here with us, and I hope it ends after you graduate, you would have a year of eligibility, especially if we work together and preserve it, to go and play D2 or wherever you'd want to play. And am I correct, Michael? I think that's inside of you is something that potentially you want to chase.
Yeah, that is definitely something that I was thinking about doing this year. I talked to Cohen a little bit about 2 weeks before the season, asking to redshirt to maintain my eligibility. And he said that he gave me the go-ahead maybe 2 days before the season started.
Yeah. Ian, have you thought about it?
I haven't really ever thought about that. I think my body might be ready after the 4 years to move on, whether it's like into coaching. I've always wanted to be a coach.
Yeah.
So I've thought about that, whether try to get a graduate spot somewhere as a coach or just entering the workforce.
Yeah. And Brad?
Yeah, I'm thinking about that because I have the COVID year. So I'm thinking about graduating this year and then trying to find somewhere else to play at D2 level.
Yeah, understood. And look, I think all three of you guys, if you want to do that, would be great additions, and you all three have the ability to do it. And I think what that does is all your hard work. I mean, we're on practice, I think, 43. And I know this, that you three guys are 43 for 43. There hasn't been an easy day of the 43, because one of the things I want to bring to life, I don't think everybody truly knows when I say you work hard every day in practice, what that entails. The conditioning level, you representing the other team on defense, on offense, pushing our players to improve, making drills, instead of it being average, really, really good, and the different things that we really ask of you to do on a daily basis. But it's one thing to do that, and I know the thrill of victory is with you, but to also be on the court and contributing and playing, I think that's another thing that, you know, potentially could bring you even more joy than you already have playing this game. So you guys know that I'll do whatever I can, as we all will, to make sure that when and if that time comes, that we get you to a great spot.
The Sean Miller Podcast is brought to you by our trusted friends at Deer Park Roofing. Protect what's important with Deer Park Roofing's industry-leading training, expert attention to detail, and responsive service. From commercial and residential replacements to roof repairs, gutters, and more, request a free estimate today at deerparkroofing.com. That's deerparkroofing.com.
So we were talking earlier about the different things that you guys do, I would say on an everyday basis, drill-wise, segment-wise, in practice, that I believe, really helps our team. And just so you guys know this, coaching has evolved, just like the game has changed, and your role has really evolved over time. 10 years ago or 20 years ago, I think that you guys sometimes would be a part of the practice, but there'd be a lot of dead time. And what you would do the most of is represent the other team's plays. Or, when we want to guard the other team's actions, a lot of times at the end of practice, then it was your time. I think you would all agree. When we start practice at 3 o'clock, you're full go from 3 until it ends.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So these are a couple things, and I'd love to get your thoughts. So we call this drill disadvantage. It helps our team prepare against the different zone defenses that we face throughout the year. We're more of a man-to-man team. So instead of us having to guard ourselves or go against ourselves, what this allows me to do is all of our players that are going to play in the game are thinking offense and preparing for offense and getting ready to play against the other team's zone. And that's because you guys are out on the court. So here we go right here. We got Michael, Ian, and Brad, AJ, who's not with us tonight, and Mark. Bob's out, and he declined. So as you can see, we have 5 defensive players, but we have 4 offensive players. In this particular clip, we have Trey, Quincy, Dez, and Lazar. So we're playing 4 versus 5. Tell me, from your perspective, what this does to prepare our team for the zone that they're getting ready to face.
Well, I know on our end, it's even though that there's 4 players, it's still really hard to guard. But it's more of our players trying to get like the spacing right and also just the concepts without having the big guy down at the block. So we got to get the ball moving, and that's what's really encouraging is ball movement, and so that we're not standing with the zone. Because when we're standing with the ball in our hands, the ball is not moving, and then the zone stays still.
That's right. So we're trying to distort the zone, and we have you at 5 versus 4. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. And again, fakes, right? And you guys are swarming the ball right here. You got 3 guys on Dez. You can do that because you have 1 more player than we do. Mm-hmm. Again, the effort level you're playing with, it makes it even more challenging. This so far is a ridiculously bad possession, right? Stop it. But you could see you're putting pressure on the 4 offensive players. You're trapping them. You're putting 2 on the ball. They have to use their fakes. They have to use their dribble just to survive. And the thought becomes when we add the 5th player on offense and it becomes 5-on-5, for them, life is easier. And I think it's a great way to represent the challenge of a good zone. But great job. Again, another clip, disadvantage. Again, what we can say on this is, look, we only make 2 or 3 passes. The ball never traveled in the paint. The zone is not distorted, right? No. Drive to the paint, jump stop, use your fakes, use your shot fake, more cutting, more movement. And they start to see that if you don't move the zone, you end up taking 3-point shots that aren't good. There's a good example of Trey doing what we want him to do. He relocates. But you see, this drill forces these 4 offensive players to survive, and then that's what we want. You get in the paint, you distort the zone, you make 2 people play you skip it. Dez doesn't take an ill-advised 3. He drives the ball, And we didn't do well against Oakland because we didn't win the game. But it wasn't our offense that cost us the game. It was clearly our defense. Our zone attack, shooting 30 free throws, only having 10 turnovers. I think a lot of the byproduct of that performance stemmed from you guys representing Oakland's zone in this disadvantage drill. All right, scout transition. This has to be one of your favorites.
Yes.
By far.
Because you get to play offense, right?
Yeah.
So you explain the drill to me, Michael, through your eyes. What is scout transition, A, from your perspective, but also what does it prepare our team to do better in games?
So scout transition is pretty much us three, and then Mark and AJ as well, pushing 5-on-5 against the whatever team 1, 2, or 3. And we're running whatever team's concepts, offense that we got upcoming. We're pretty much going to try to simulate their offense to the best of our ability, make sure they get back in transition, play defense, and then not give up a ill-advised or a wide-open shot.
Yep.
And we're trying
Anything
to get a
to
wide-open shot.
emphasize or add to that?
It's more of our guys. We got to get back against teams that play fast.
That's
we got to be able
amen.
to stop the ball and get 5 guys
So,
on the ball.
Michael, what you said is true, but really
Yeah.
the premise is we want to put extreme pressure on these 5 players to understand we want to make the game 5-on-5 and get back in transition. A lot of times we'll do this drill when the team we're getting ready to play against shoots a lot of threes in transition, or like, for example, they push the ball without a rim runner, right? So it's different. So our center has to find the perimeter. Bryant, for example, they pushed the ball at a fast pace and they were constantly 5 out. So this is the drill, our go-to in practice to prepare our team to A, get back against an up-tempo team, to defend the three-point line, to not run to the paint when you don't need to. And then, like you said, Michael, and then when the game's 5-on-5, we have to get back to our concepts. So this is how we do it. We run one of our actions or plays, 5-on-0. And then the infamous double whistle is going to happen, right, at some point. Whenever that double whistle happens, you can see, Michael, this is you, right? We gave you a real advantage. Double whistle happens now. That means Dez drops the ball. And wow, look at the pressure we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we have to try to make the game 5-on-5 against you guys. So this would be, I think, one of those go again. And part of what we're saying to Sasha is, even though you're a center, your job is to get in front of the ball. Not worry about who's behind the ball or your man, but build a wall so that Michael can't go one-on-one full court against Davion. But that's a great job and one. So again, we're running our action 5-on-0. These guys are going to go until they hear that double whistle. It happens. And now here you are, Brad. Go. Again, we're 0 for 2. But there's nobody and nothing we can do to simulate a team playing fast and the importance of getting back, the importance of making the game 5-on-5 than this drill. But you could see Michael went coast to coast, and now, Brad, you go coast to coast. We're giving maximum effort, but we're putting incredible pressure on these 5 guys. All right? So those are actually 2 bad examples and examples of you guys doing a really good job. So we'll stay with that until we get it right, until they make you play 5-on-5. We could point, talk, match up. And look, there's nothing more important to our defense than getting back in transition, right?
Yep.
So
And I got to say, that's, even though that they let us score, that's still like the best part of being on that scout transition, because then we get to do it all over again.
Yeah.
right,
Make it take
you're
it.
on offense too.
Yeah.
Make
right.
it take it.
Playing, no doubt.
The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Payroll Partners, where you're not just a number. That means providing a best-in-class HR and payroll experience that was built on award-winning technology and live support customer service with a dedicated payroll specialist who's just a phone call away. You shouldn't have to choose between technology and customer service. At Payroll Partners, you get both. Payroll Partners is locally owned and operated by a proud Xavier alum. For more information or to request a free demo, visit payrollpartners.net. That's payrollpartners.net.
And look, I will say this. That's why it's so important in the role that you three guys have that you can play. Like,
Yeah.
you're not just some guys who want to be on the team. The activity, your conditioning, your physical fitness, just your ability. I mean, how much you weigh, your body fat, running all day. I mean, you're out there for 2 hours. When you're doing that scout transition drill, and we do that 8, 10, 15 times in a row, I mean, there's nothing that we can simulate more in terms of conditioning for you guys than that drill itself, okay? So this is an everyday drill. This is the third drill we're showing, which is 5-on-5 change. So it's a constant. I don't know if there's a more important drill that we do for our offense than this one. You want to explain it, Ian?
Yeah, so we do it every day after we do 5-on-0, and then we'll come out, we'll go through like our main concepts, and then the scout guys will come out and we'll be in whatever coverage a team we're playing is doing. So
explain that coverage.
So ball screen coverage, whenever a 4 or 5 sets it, for example, like Houston, they're trapping the ball screens. So for this week, we're going to trap the ball screens and switch the pair sides. And we just have to emulate their defense and basically give them the best look that we can.
No doubt. So like sometimes a team will go under our screens.
Yeah.
So if we know that, you guys, you're going to simulate, you're going to be the other team. You're going to go under screens.
Yep.
Houston, obviously a great defensive team, super, super aggressive, put 2 on the ball. It's hard for us to prepare for that if that's not our style, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So what we do is we have you guys simulate Houston. Our players can focus on our offense. We're going to get tons of repetitions against that type of coverage. And I believe that it allows our team to be the most prepared for the next game. And you guys know this too. It's crazy how one game can be completely different from the next.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're just going through it from leaving a zone game, a game where that's all we worked on for 2 or 3 days is zone offense, to now a team that won't play zone that's great playing man-to-man.
Yep.
So what's the saving grace for me? You guys, that you're locked and loaded to be Houston. Okay, so here it is, 5-on-5 change. We usually do this at the very beginning of practice, right? Probably the first 20 minutes.
Yep.
So we're running our transition. Now you could see what we're simulating here is switch, Ian.
Yep.
So here's Michael, here are you. You switch. And again, we don't switch. So how do you prepare for a team that switches? Through what you do.
Yep.
So here it
Switch
is,
it.
boom. And now we're trying to pick on Michael here, small on big, Gitas. And Dez does a great job now on the next switch. So when you get to the second side, the coverage is switch again. And now Dez takes on the center. Boom. BJ used to be a 2 guard. He's a center now. Here we go. Pace, right? Fast into it. You're waiting on us. The coverage. Different coverage now.
It looked like a flat hedge.
Great.
Ian, great block.
Yeah, Ian playing hard. Michael got bowed in the face.
Yep.
Looks like you quit playing, Michael.
Yeah, that was a
All right,
elbow
good,
in the face
good.
right there.
Good job.
Or the nose. I can't tell.
Oh, wow.
And the play's still going. Now it's over.
Those ones hurt.
Again, 5-on-5 change. Here we go. Made field goal. Quick push. Dez at the 1. Running our through. Again, now we're
Jump.
simulating the hedge. This
Yep.
is Houston, right?
Yep.
Or an aggressive team. Out, 2 people on the ball. So Dez has a different game plan when there's 2 people on the ball than he does if you switch. So one of the ways that we teach him how to play against the hedge, how to play against the switch is this drill, again, with you guys making it what it is. By the way, a little shout out to Bob before
there
he
it
said
is.
Shout out Bob
There he
Nugget.
is.
Free injury, Bob.
He said no to this podcast.
That would be hysterical if he got scored on.
And again, I don't think it's easy to score against you guys. I think your quickness, your organization, you've done this so long, so many times that you know what you're doing. And it's very representative for us on what's to come. So you saw that 5-on-5 change. I think we showed 3 types of coverage: hedge, switch, and flat hedge.
Yeah.
So it's a way for us to teach our guys how to play against the different defenses that we see. And in a given week, sometimes that change is drastic, as you know. Who's the most difficult player in the 2 years that you guys have been here to defend?
Dez.
Dez?
I was about to say Dez too.
On the perimeter, definitely Dez.
How about Sule?
Him guarding him, like picking him up full court and trying to. I would say Sule is up there for me. Dez is the strength, but Sule's got quickness and. So
How about Colby?
I would say Colby too.
Yeah.
We had a lot of good guys. They were all hard to guard.
Yep. Yep. And, you know, I think in our offense a year ago, one of the understated players, and I want this year's team to learn from some of the things that he did a year ago. Adam Kunkel wasn't as big and strong as Dez, and maybe as quick with the ball, but he really was the smartest player in our offense.
Yep.
And I thought, like, from a concept perspective, like this drill, I mean, he almost mastered each of the coverages on what to look for. Would you guys agree with me?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Kunkel, he was, no matter who was on him, I was always confident he could get a basket.
Right.
And no matter what they did to him, he was just always going to score.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or make the right play.
Yeah, his game was so simple.
He was really good with his offhand. When he drove, it was like he wasn't the quickest guy, but he was hard to stay in front of because he was like slippery in a way.
Yep.
Because he was good with his offhand, and he had that sneak layup that he would always do. And yeah, Kunkel was a great player.
So 4-on-4 concepts. What stands out about 4-on-4 concepts? I would say 5-on-5 change, the last drill, and now 4-on-4 concepts are everyday drills, right?
Yes.
We even do this in shoot around.
Yeah.
What stands out in terms of for you guys? Would you say this is one of the most difficult
Oh, for sure.
drills for you guys?
It's always at a bad time in practice.
I was
right when we're in the
saying
most
that.
most gassed, right after offense or defense, we come out here, or we've been sitting around for a little bit, and then it's end of practice. We get thrown out there. So I would say this is one of the hardest.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons we always play music when we do this. There's a couple of reasons that I do that, but one of which is to motivate you three. Because I know at this point we've been going for a long time. We need your best effort. So we usually turn on the music, right? But again, it's another way for us to drill the concepts. And that is, what is going to be the coverage? Ian, you said earlier, this is a switch.
Yep.
What are we looking for? How do we go about that? And we're trying to simulate that against you guys. Okay, last one. Van Gundy ball screen drill, named after two great friends of mine, Stan and Jeff Van Gundy. Both of those guys have done this drill when they are coaches, and it's a great way of teaching our ball screen defense now, our coverage. We're on defense now. So what we now utilize you guys, the way we utilize you in this drill is you're on offense, right? Mm-hmm. This has to be one of your favorite drills too.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely up there.
I mean, offense, get the screen guys, and if we score, we get to keep going. So yeah, it's definitely.
So we got to get that first shot stop, and we're working on our coverages, working on our communication, working on protection and recovery, all these different things. And the name of it is Van Gundy ball screen drill, because at the end of the day, the only way we are going to reward our 5 defenders is they have to get a first shot stop, right, without fouling. So this is a great example. We're at 11 seconds. We have 2 freshmen, Kachi and Dalen, in a ball screen. They blow the coverage.
Yep.
Right? Dalen is in ice coverage. Kachi looks to me like he's in drop coverage. So I don't know if he yelled ice and didn't do it, or Dalen took it upon himself to get in ice without him saying it. But they're going to learn the hard way that that's not going to work. Foul. So we would go again. So we're working on communication, ball screen coverage. Sometimes we simulate what the other team does. We keep playing even through deflections. And this would be a great example of good defense, right? Where we have 5 defenders on one side of the floor. Great, that's team defense. No strike. Sasha got to get his hands up. And I would say that's one thing that Sasha has to do a better job of. Our young big guys, they don't understand when you play with your hands down, you might as well be 6'5", right? No strike. Hands up, hands up. This is the drill we utilize to teach them things like this. Good pass, Brad. Michael Wolf, what do you think?
I think I know it's a miss.
Miss?
I think so.
I think it looks good. Yeah.
Boom.
Come on.
Big time shot.
Have some confidence.
And watch the block out here, BJ on Sasha.
EJ.
The Sean Miller Podcast is brought to you by Deer Park Roofing, and their company motto is protect what's important. Deer Park is not just another storm-chasing roofing company. They're invested in your community and truly care about the people in it. You can trust them to do the job right. Deer Park has highly trained professional technicians who make sure your residential or commercial roofing system is installed correctly and quickly. For a free estimate, visit deerparkroofing.com today. That's deerparkroofing.com.
I want to close this podcast up by again thanking you guys for your effort level. You know, none of you are on scholarship, and the amount of energy and effort you've give us. By the way, you're here in the summer. You're here in the fall. You're every day. If we're in shoot around on the day of a game, when we go through the other team's sets and we're going through it, we're doing 4-on-4 concepts. You're hard at it even on game day. And I know there's nobody in our locker room more disappointed if we lose or happier than we win than you guys. And I love how the managers and really all of us give you a shout out. Great job, Scout, because I think we all know that leading up to every game we play, you're a big part of why we're going to be successful. So I respect you guys a great deal. And we couldn't be the team. And certainly as we build our program, you can't become the type of college basketball program we aspire to become without people like you in our program every day. I would just like to close with this from you. What is it that you believe people on the outside, even a great fan of ours, don't completely understand about college basketball that you feel like you do, being that you're a part of it every single day like you are? What is it that you sometimes say, God, I just wish they understood this or that?
For me, I would say they don't realize the time commitment. They don't, pretty much the only month we get off is May, and then there's breaks here and there, but during the season, there's not many breaks. So I think that people really don't, they think that since you don't play, you're not also in the gym lifting or playing basketball or doing all that. And then another thing, I think people always come up to me and they always, if it's the new year, they're always like, so are you going to play this year? And I always am like, well, I would love to, but that's not really what I'm here for. Mm-hmm. So they think I'm bad at basketball or something, or they're disappointed that my answer is I'm not starting this year. I know what I'm here to do, and that's playing in the games is my treat after getting the guys ready to play. So I think that's the biggest misconception. No,
embracing a role in college sports is so big, and everybody wants to be the quarterback or everybody wants to be the leading scorer. But man, sometimes it's guys like you that really allow us to become the best we can be. Mm-hmm. And to your point, Brad, what made you wear a mullet?
So right when I got to high school, my hair started getting curly, and I've always had short hair. And so I was wondering, right after my freshman year of college, I was wondering if the back of my hair ever would get curly. Mm-hmm. And my mom was very against it at the beginning. She really didn't want me growing a mullet. She thought I would look gross and all that. And then then I started doing it, and then it started getting curly in the back, and then my mom started loving it. My grandparents started loving it. And I also did it just a way to stand out a little bit, because sometimes as a walk-on, you kind of get lost sitting at the end of the bench. So I wanted a way for people to recognize me. Yeah. So that was a simple way.
So it's here to stay then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's here to stay.
yeah.
And then my brother also grew a mullet right at the same time.
You know, in 1987, I had a badass mullet.
I bet it was good.
But everybody did back then, Brad.
Yeah.
The one thing about you right now, you're an outlier, you know?
Yeah, so I had to bring it back.
Yeah, good. Ian?
All right. What I would say is what people don't really understand is how hard it is to win every game.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you emphasize that a lot, and you don't really understand it until you go through it. And, like, even, like, last year, like, we lost to DePaul,
Yep.
Butler, and, like, things can just happen where, like, there's no team that's bad. Like, they're all Division I. They're all Big East teams. Like, they might not be on the same level or winning as many games as us, but there's still so much that goes into winning every game, whether it's film after a previous game, the personnel we have to go through, their offense, their defense, just like all the little details underneath out of bounds and everything. Like, you can only make so many mistakes, otherwise it's
doubt.
over because everyone's just so good.
Especially in the conference we're in and the
Exactly.
schedule we play. I think that perspective is something that for all of you guys will have these lessons for the rest of your life. But that right there, what you just said, how hard it is, you might as well say to be successful.
Yeah.
That's what you take from here, and that'll be the greatest gift that we give you when you leave.
Yeah.
Michael?
Without piggybacking on how hard it is to win, I would say it's our job, and the one thing that most people don't understand is it's our job to get the guys ready for the games, pretty much preparing ourselves to do whatever we need to do to make them as ready as they can to win the game, giving it 100% effort every single time we step on the floor, the weight room, behind the scenes stuff, whatever we're doing, giving it 100% effort, knowing that we will never see the floor. Pretty much giving of ourselves for the betterment of the team and doing whatever it takes to win.
Yeah.
Because I think, like you said, we're the happiest when we win and we're the most upset when we lose.
Yep.
So one of the questions I have for you, Coach, is right when I came here, I saw the video of you on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show,
Yeah.
and I wanted to know how that came about and what the experience was like.
Yeah, no. So a couple things. I hate when people bring it up. So I'll start there. I was, I think, 11 or 12 years old, so I'm 55 now. So imagine if somebody would talk to you about it for the last 44 or 45 years of your life. And that's actually what's happened, Brad. For a while, when I was younger, I would say there wouldn't be a week in my life that wouldn't go by where somebody would ask me what you just asked me about. What's happened as I've gotten older is not a lot of people think about Johnny Carson. They don't understand that Tonight Show. It's not as big today as it once was. I mean, back then, imagine late night, you had like one or two choices and everybody watched the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
So how it happened was my dad was a high school coach. I was his son. There was no baskets that would go down to like 6 feet or 5 feet or 8 feet back then. So when you were a little kid, unless you could shoot on a 10-foot basket, all you would do is dribble a basketball. And my dad was a great teacher, loved the game. I loved the game. And for whatever reason, I just got to the point where I could almost do anything with a basketball. As young as about 9 years old. So I started to do these halftime shows. Because he was a high school coach, I'd do the halftime show of his game. And one thing led to another. And Sonny Vaccaro, who created this Dapper Dan round ball game, a high school All-American game, he heard about me and he invited me to do the halftime show of the Dapper Dan round ball game. I did that. And then I did a few other college games, NBA games. Well, as the legend grew, somehow I got invited to go on the Tonight Show. It's a forever moment. Yeah. For sure. And I'd say the last 10 years, people don't ask me about it as much, but man, for a long, long time, I'm that guy. Yeah. Ian?
I'll just ask you, who would you say Xavier player, because I've been a fan for a long time, favorite player to have coached, like based on talent, mentality, work ethic, like everything, favorite player that you've coached here?
Well, I would say to answer it, first part of it is there's a lot of them because I think a lot of great Xavier players have one common theme, and they have a healthy chip on their shoulder. I don't know if this is the dream school for a lot of young players, but it certainly becomes a great choice. And when they choose here, I think they choose here to prove to a lot of people that they're better than they were ranked. And I'm going to go partner with a basketball program that sometimes flies under the radar, if you know what I mean. We have to earn our respect.
100%.
But I would say that the top of my list is someone that I coached, not as a head coach, but as an assistant coach here. And his name is Romain Sato.
All right, yep.
One of the reasons is English wasn't his first language. School was difficult. He's from the Central Africa Republic. That's his home country. Yeah. And he was a warrior. He was the ultimate off-the-court gentleman, unbelievable person. And yet the second he went on the court, he became like a lion.
Yeah.
And it's that combination of how could you be such a great guy off the court and such a competitive, fierce warrior on the court.
Did you compare him to Sule at all when it comes to that? Because I feel like last year I just noticed, like I hung around Sule a lot because I was always hanging out with Cam and Dez, and he roomed with them. And he was just such a nice, like, calm guy off the court. But even in practice, he wasn't, like, crazy. But once the games came around, he was
Sule has that combination of being just a free-spirited, nice person off the court. But Sato is like 100 times Sule. Yeah.
I believe it.
Bigger, just bigger. And Romain went on to be really, I think, an icon in Europe. When I was the coach at Arizona, we did a summer trip to Barcelona in Spain. Yeah. And Valencia is a city in Spain. And that's where Romain Sato played for many years. And there's a huge picture, like as big as a 20-foot wall of him on the wall, cool. As a champion of the Euro League and above and beyond. So he's almost like a Hall of Fame player in the Euro League and in Europe.
Awesome.
Michael?
Ooh. If you had to pick one game, either as a player or a coach, to get back and redo again, what game would you pick?
Oakland.
Good answer.
No.
Fair enough.
I would say it would have gone back. I won't get the year right, but I think it would be, in essence, the third year that I was the coach here.
Okay.
My third season. A very good team. We were in the NCAA tournament in Lexington, Kentucky. Played BYU in the first game and we won. And then we played Ohio State. I think we were an 8 or 9 seed. Yep. They were a 1 seed. They had Greg Oden, Michael Conley Jr., Coach Mata, who had left Xavier to go to Ohio State. Good friend of mine was the coach at Ohio State. And, man, we had him on the ropes. Yep. We had him on the ropes. And we had the opportunity to foul winning by 3 points, and we elected not to. And I could see it like it was yesterday. Ron Lewis jumped up from about 30 feet at the buzzer to tie the game. The game went into overtime, and they ended up beating us, and they went to the national championship. It just shows the parity of the NCAA tournament. They almost won the national championship, but they were really close, about an inch away from losing and us going to the Sweet 16. But, we learned a lot from that game. The following year and years after, I think that game toughened us. We wanted desperately to get back to that situation. And in sports, sometimes your hardest lessons are when you lose a way like that. So, our loss to Oakland has to be the fuel to a future win here this year for us.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Well, look, I'm glad you guys were able to be a part of the podcast, and look forward to the rest of the year together. What you do for us every day, this podcast speaks right to it, how valuable you are, how much we respect you, how much I respect what you do, and all three of you are very good players. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Coach.
This has been the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing, with your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum. Join us again soon for another episode with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.